Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The MW2 qualifiers begin in only a couple of weeks time in early January, but the pros are not at all happy with the state of the game going into it. They want to go back to the old patch update because the new one is seemingly tragic for the spawns. The pros are getting into action again on the scrim side of things, getting their practice ready, and the game is arguably now in a more shambolic state than we have seen so far in this title. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, there were some rumours coming around that Hotel would be gone from the map pool after Major 1. That doesn't seem to be the case. From what we've seen so far, the players are still practicing on Hotel. So with any luck, it does stay, because if Hotel was going to be gone and these tragic sport updates, we would be in for a rough time watching Major 2, there is no doubt. Speaking of zapping, as well, Zyi said right there, Zaptius is looking to potentially retire and move on from COD Esports. You guys probably know the name Zaptius if you followed COD for a number of years. Great player in the Challenger side, and he's even briefly had stints even higher up than that. But as he says, he wasn't really having the greatest time in Vanguard, and doesn't really want to commit to Valorant full time, because I think he tried to make that switch and it was difficult to figure out whether he'd actually be able to make that work. So he reckons he's still got what it takes, but he's not sure if he's completely done yet or whether he's just going to take a break and going to focus on some other things for now. So potentially a retirement announcement there from Zaptius going forward. Now let's talk about the state of the game right now, because there's been lots of discussions as well about the meta, the Vaznev versus the Scar. What's the better weapon? Are the ARs right to be frustrated with the Vaznev? Are the SMGs right to think the ARs are too powerful right now? And Clay and Exclusive Ace have a bit of a discussion on this, and Clay says that he's going to send Exclusive Ace's way a list of attachments that are used in GAs and stuff, so he can go ahead and test out. So two goat to the sea, no doubt, discussing here. And so Clay's going to send a comparison list over the coming days, and Ace might well be coming out with a video just like he did last year, comparing the Auto and the M4, or the MP40, sorry, in terms of how good they were as weapons, to this year, the Vaznev and the Scar, and then maybe the ARs will have more fuel to their arsenal and try to get rid of the Vaznev from play. I know that Methods has been pushing quite a lot lately to ban the Vaznev, but maybe you can understand why he might say such a thing. Now, speaking of OpTic and Methods, he was talking about, what if OpTic were to give Methods an offer, right? Would he be able to go? Of course, he would absolutely love to go, but whether that's a possibility, who knows? Now, with OpTic still kind of wondering what they're going to do with their roster going forwards, maybe they know, but as at least of recording, we don't really know what their plan is going to be. But they've got to figure things out relatively soon, just because practice is now back on the mini. The teams are going again, and that they're getting ready to go for the upcoming stage, and there will be different spawns here. The maps are the same, the gunplay is the same as what we saw at Major 1, but the spawns are now changed, and arguably by the pros, much worse than they used to be. And this is a classic Infinity Ward shenanigans, but nonetheless, we've got to discuss it, because they're not happy at all about this, and arguably want the next stage to be played on the old patch update they played in Major 1, which I think is understandable, but nonetheless pretty remarkable. So here we go from Boston Beats. He comes out with this, we're in for a good time at the Elite and also at the LAN. So that's the thing, the Challengers guys, they're getting ready to go quickly with the Elite. And also to note here, there's been a weird thing on YouTube lately where YouTube algorithms are so clever that they can spot the swear word on the screen, and there's been a couple of videos that have got demonetized just because there's a word like this that's on the screen for too long. Absolutely incredible scenes from YouTube. So I'm going to keep calling their bluff on some things, but here we go. So Beans comes out with this, and basically this is a Hotel hardpoint here we can see, and this the set of spawns here is honestly crazy. Like, they just seem to spawn not quite randomly, but it's not too far different from random, to be honest. So this is the video here on Hotel, and here come the boys. So the blue team have got control of the hardpoint, 7's on the pinch here, and then number 5 spawns up top, and then number 8 spawns on the right hand side. I can't really wrap my head around exactly why they would spawn like this, because you would imagine that blue team's got control of the hill, more than likely red team should spawn out over here somewhere. Now, it's understandable maybe the guy spawns up top relatively close, but the fact that 8 then spawns in the back when 5 spawns here, just I don't really understand why that would be the case. So this seems to be more often the thing with the spawns nowadays, is that they just love spawning you behind the opposition. And even as Octane describes in a second, you can spawn behind the opposition and then spawn again behind the opposition, and then they spawn behind you. So it's an absolute mess. And even as Slasher says, I was cross-eyed spinning in circles yesterday for the first time, not sure if I learned much. He's been trying to figure out what is going on, and Slasher says, I've been shouting the spawns are screwed since the CDL launch, but I think they got me muted. And this is another example. So here we are on Hydroelectric, and this is even more egregious in my opinion. I don't understand what the logic is here, but it seems like complete randomness, to be honest. So here we are, we've got we've got some contesting going on. We've got the red team are technically in the hill, number 2 just spawns here, the blue guy, and then as time progresses here, so 1 goes down at the hard point, 8 spawns right behind 2, which look, this isn't ideal, but then again, none of the other blue players are up, so maybe it's understandable. So he spawns in, So he's on the pinch already here. So he's trying to pinch on number 2. Number 6 turns around to rotate. And then number 4, blue team, spawns all the way out on the other side of the map entirely, which you can probably understand just because, you know, number 8 is on the pinch now because he got this weird spawn in the back. So number 4 spawning here isn't out of the question, but you thought he might spawn a bit closer to the current hill. And then as number 8 comes through, you then get number 3 spawns right next to him and basically just goes to shoot him in the back. So like, how does this even make any sense really? The number 4 spawns here, and then when number 8 is even closer to the old hardpoint, number 3 on the blue team also spawns here next to the new hardpoint. It's like, what is actually happening here? Like, Beans would love some analysis on this when he's got some time. And as Sasha goes on to say, the only thing I learned in the Modern Warfare 2019 season was to chalk some things up as unlucky. So unlucky lol, sucks we no longer play something that can be perfected. And he goes on to say that was the beauty of it. Either you could read a good spawn, it was legit human error. Now you can just throw your hands up in the air sometimes. There's nothing you can do. So, I mean, yeah, frustrating for the players. And even Scump gave his thoughts on this and said, well, at the start of this game, everyone was so gassing it up and really hyped about it, which happens every year when it's the honeymoon phase. But yeah, Scump is thinking nowadays, yeah, really not so impressive. And also Octane says from what he's heard and what they're probably beginning to play right about now, that, yeah, the spawns are terrible. Basically what happens is you spawn in, the other team spawns behind you, then you spawn behind them. It's entirely unpredictable, and that is going to create some absolute chaos possibly going into the Major 2 cycle.
Bro, I thought people loved this game. Like, dude, I swear, everyone was gassing this game at first. Are we just not that anymore, boys? What's going on? Dude, I swear, people were gassing this game. No, am I wrong? Dude, when this game first came out, people were like, this is the best. Dude, I swear, people were going crazy when this game first came out. Dude, people were loving this.
Bro, I was talking to Casey today because Challenger started scrims today. They said that the spawns are the worst they've ever played with.
Yeah, I know. I heard it's really bad.
Yeah. Basically, chat, from what I have been told from Challenger scrims, and I've seen some VOD, essentially, you just keep spawning behind them over and over again. It's like you'll die. If your team has hill control, you will spawn out. They will spawn behind you, and then you will spawn behind them, and then it's just like a continuous like cycle of spawn trapping. So it's gonna be fun. Super good spawns.
Can we just stay on the old patch or something, man?
So what can be done about this, if anything, right? I mean, it seems another one of these things where Infinity Ward have they even tried to fix the spawns? That's the question to me. Did they intend with this new patch update to fix the spawns? Did they deliberately change them? Or is this one of the things that just sometimes happens, right? I mean, like, it just is one of these things where sometimes they make changes and the spawns just happen to be different, right? We even saw, I think back in maybe Modern Warfare or certainly Cold War, there was the argument that the spawns were different in the kind of professional matches than they were in practice. So when the pros were practicing on their competitive dedicated servers, the spawns were different to in regular online matches, and they were different again when they actually hopped into a LAN server. Now, whether that was just placebo, whether the pros were just seeing things that weren't actually there, I don't know, but the pros do play the game day in, day out, so you can understand why they might be feeling these things. We haven't heard those discussions so far in this game. It's more just whatever the new update is just kind of screwed up the spawns. So either Infinity Ward fix it going into the new year, seems relatively unlikely because whenever they fix anything, usually something breaks, or, you know, could the pros actually come together and say, hey, this is tragic, this is not going to work at all, the game has simply taken a step backwards in terms of consistency from before, who this helps, who this hurts, I don't know, but, you know, again, it's a big thing to be adapted to, if you can even adapt to it in the current spawns and understand what's happening here. So maybe the teams that are so good at adapting, maybe, you know, some of the teams that do quite well at the start, maybe even a team like Vegas could have a decent chance to capitalize on this, but nonetheless, it's obviously not great for the pros playing an entirely new set of spawns and an entirely worse set of spawns going into the second major of the season, where you would imagine things would get better, but that's not always how things work when Infinity Ward are in charge. And as Beans goes on to say, wait, so you don't like the squad spawns but not fully squad spawns mixed in with normal spawns, but also can't spawn on top of each other spawns? Like, you know, this is basically describes the current state of the situation. So an absolute shambles, as of course we might well expect. Would the pros be able to get together and say, hey CDL, let's run the old patch update going forwards? Because look, that's what they do going into the major, right? For Major 1, for example, they used the old patch update that was pre-Major 1, because I think this update came out right before Major 1, like quite a long time ago now, but the pros didn't play on it going into the first major, even though I think the Challenger players did at the same venue, just because they try not to change things too dramatically. However, from now, they will be playing the new update. So whether they can agree with the league to say, actually, let's not do this, let's run it back to the old version, I don't know, but, you know, that obviously creates creates a bit of a dangerous precedent, because if down the line they make some serious updates to the weapons, then obviously you want to be playing on the updated weapon patch update, but then that would also involve having the new spawns. So, you know, very intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section. I don't know what the solution is going to be to this, or it's just another one of the things that the pros have got to deal with and suck up, because, like, if these spawns came out with the start of this game, then people would be like, oh, well, you know, it's terrible, but, you know, it's not exactly unexpected. Whereas because we had spawns that weren't great, but weren't absolutely atrocious at the start of this game, this now feels even worse. And this is the thing, right? These are the qualifiers at the start of January. Well, it's the 13th of January that these all begin. You guys can probably just about see that here if I zoom out very far indeed. But, yeah, 13th, 14th, 15th of January. So there is a bit of time for them to figure out what's going to happen here, or whether there's going to be any changes to the CDL rule set in general. But some big questions to answer, no doubt about it, because the pros are not happy with this pretty much across the board at the moment. Few things to mention before we close out the video. Firstly, here from Brian Sats, thought this is pretty crazy to think about actually. Which duo competed at the most events in COD history? So, I mean, as expected, really, the OpTic Dynasty is absolutely dominating these leaderboards. If we look at the bottom here, Simp and aBeZy, 26 events together. Now, in fairness, right, nowadays, Simp and aBeZy, it feels like they've been teaming together for ages, as they have since the Black Ops 4 season in basically 2019. They've been together since then, but obviously there hasn't been that many events over the last few years compared to what there used to be. So Scum and Formal, Scum and Crimsix, Karma and Crimsix, they top the leaderboard, then Aches and TP, then Zoomer and Attach, another legendary duo, Crim and Formal as well, technically, although, you know, whether they were that much of a duo in terms of their bromance is up for debate, of course. Scum and Karma, then Octane and Slacked, that's another pretty legendary duo. RC's Pristini, of course, the twins, Karma, Formal, Killer and Miracles as well, 27 events. Crazy to think that Killer and Miracles, despite not being around that long relatively in Call of Duty history, have teamed still for more events than Simp and aBeZy have. But of course, that story will change relatively soon. And then looking at it from this perspective, I believe there's a couple of additions here just to make, because Aches and Crimsix and TP and Crimsix also should be considered here under the Aches and TP realm. I think maybe they had 14 event wins kind of, you know, between them as a pairing, but nonetheless, this kind of gets the story across. Scum and Formal, 20 wins together. Scum and Crimsix, 19 wins together. Karma and Crim, similar story, the OpTic Dynasty. So once again, they're just dominating the leaderboards here. Then Scum and Karma, Karma Formal, but also Crim and Clayster, teamed for a relatively short time back in the Complexity days, and also more recently, of course, that it ended in disaster. 11 wins between them. Simp and aBeZy have 8, and even Big T and Rambo on this list at 7, despite that being a long time ago now. And just the final thing to mention here from the real Crim 7, discussing what would be the case if Black Ops 3 was a game in the CDL era. Now, look, I love Black Ops 3. I think it's the best COD, like the most fun I've ever had playing a Call of Duty, no doubt about it. And yeah, look, if it was about nowadays, I know that people would say, oh, you know, they'd ruin it, but to be honest, the CWL for Black Ops 3 was tragic. Like, what they did that year for Black Ops 3, yes, they had the online league, which was okay, but there were so few events in Black Ops 3. I genuinely believe that the current CDL format is significantly better than what we had in the Black Ops 3 days for competition, because we had like maybe 4 proper events that season. Yes, there were some, you know, dodgy ones like South Carolina, there was the Crab Melbourne Invitational, and even the way the stages worked that season weren't great. There was no double elim. The format that they had for Black Ops 3 in the CWL was not good, and I think they kind of squandered that year, to be honest, in what could have been the best COD year ever, but it wasn't. So if they were to bring it back somehow for the CDL, I think it'd be phenomenal. I know there'd be some issues with it, but, you know, nonetheless, Black Ops 3 is always godlike, so, you know, always gets my seal of approval. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.